Are we live? Let me just check the.
Just put.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I can see us on the site. All right, Nate, can you hear us? Sorry, everyone, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with the stream here, but we'll get started in a sec as soon as we see Nate on the screen. Um, well, while we figure that out, I'll just give a little intro, and then we can hopefully jump into it once Nate's in here. So yeah, everyone, we are super excited to kick off the first sort of live stream as part of the hackathon, and we just thought it would be good for myself, Clay, and Nate, who are the co-founders of Coliseum, to just kind of go over like best practices on how to like think about starting your hackathon projects or a startup, what you need to keep in mind in like the early days of the hackathon, how you should be structuring your time, and then in the kind of the second half, we're going to talk about how to structure your submission. We obviously will be giving guidance in the platform and like the submission form, but just to talk at a high level about kind of things that we're looking for as judges of the hackathon, and what we've seen be successful in terms of winning prizes and ultimately getting into the accelerator. So yeah, we can just wait a few more minutes while Nate figures it out. But yeah, we can then at the end, I guess we're going to leave some time for questions. So questions can be put in the Discord. So for those watching on the platform, you should definitely join our Discord. It's got, I think, a few thousand people in there now. And this is like where we're going to be doing most of our just sort of like daily communication with folks. So yeah, feel free to just ping the Cypherpunk Hackathon channel, and then yeah, we can answer those questions at the end. So yeah, looks like Nate is here, but now Clay has disappeared.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll
Sorry.
see if we
One
can
second.
figure that out. Sorry, this is our first one, so we're just kind of figuring out some of the difficulties here. Cool. Well, I can just kick it off and just ramble while we figure this out. So yeah, I think the main thing everyone should be thinking about when they start the process of building their startup and going through the hackathon sprint is figuring out like who you're going to be working with. Is kind of the first thing. I think there's a variety of ways to find people to work with. One, our Discord, our platform. There's like a huge directory of other profiles that you can search by like skill type or interest or location. So if you don't have a co-founding team that you are entering the competition with, you should definitely figure out how to get a team together, because what we found is just a lot of the best submissions came from teams of usually 2 to 3 rather than solo developers, and that's probably just because one, you can get more done, and two, it's just also good to just be bouncing ideas off with a kind of a thought partner on what you're building. So that's kind of the first part, is just like figuring out the team. The second part is around figuring out like what to build. So we published just some thoughts about various like ideas that we've been talking about internally that we think are interesting, and we published a blog post about it. If you want to read it, it's called Request for Products. And I think those are pretty solid as maybe jumping off points on various like areas that we're interested in, and also the tracks themselves, so like DeFi, stable coins, etc. So I think we're not super prescriptive on what you should be building because we feel like the best startups and the best founders overall have some sort of idea of like what they want to bring to the competition and like where they think the market opportunity is. So we're not like a traditional hackathon in that sense where we're very specific with specific bounties on what to build, but hopefully the request for product document is helpful as a resource to get started. Okay, so it seems like we have everyone here now. It's working. Um,
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you, Nate.
Okay.
So I think we figured it out. So yeah, I was just saying like kind of things to think about when people are getting started with the hackathon. I don't know if Nate, since your audio seems to be working, do you want to kind of give some thoughts on what people should be focused on?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you covered it really well with like sequencing of, yeah, if you are looking for a team, that's obviously one of the most important things you need to kind of tackle first. So we have the Discord for that. We have the platform and a directory, and sort of a new product in the works as well, which we can talk a little bit about later. But yeah, definitely just be super proactive about that. We find it's helpful for folks to jump on a call with prospective teammates, like to actually like take the time to connect a bit face to face, or as face to face as you can get, just so you guys can get on the same page with respect to like what your goals are, what you're aiming for by the end of the hackathon, what your working schedules are, how you're going to work together. You know, this is all assuming that you kind of have a pretty ambitious idea and you want to get as much done as possible. It really helps to just have as high bandwidth communication with the team as possible. Um, yeah, please use the Discord to bounce ideas off of us and other people. If you kind of have the inkling of an idea or like some sort of vague idea that you're trying to develop more, I would we found that talking that out with people who are building in the same space can really help. Um, I wouldn't be too afraid of like people copying your idea or anything like that. I mean, frankly, there's a lot of ways to approach even the same product, and like what we've seen, it's really a lot more differentiation is really a lot more about execution than it is about just having the idea in the first place. So I wouldn't feel like too afraid that if you post about your idea in the chat, someone's going to steal it. We really don't see that happen much. It's execution is the harder part. Yeah, I mean, I think there's like a whole section where we should just talk through like what we want to see in the project submission form. I think that's probably like
Yeah.
the last time around was like the most helpful. Just how we think about submissions, like what judges look for, how we think about also like Coliseum's criteria for investment um, for folks that are applying for that. Um, yeah, and I guess maybe just one clarifier up front because I saw a question in Discord about this, but the hackathon is a submission, an application for our investment and the accelerator program. There's not like a separate application that you need to do. It is the hackathon submission. So we can kind of talk through like what we look for there. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
Clay, is your mic working? Anything? Let's hear. Oh boy, it's not working. um, let's see here. All right. Well, while we get Clay's mic working, yeah. I mean, I think one other thing to touch on, just as you like kind of are in the beginning stages of the hackathon process, is figuring out like what you want to prioritize. So like once you have a team, what you know you want to build going into it. I think the purpose of the hackathon is to treat it sort of as like an engineering sprint over the next 4 to 5 weeks. And so you got to figure out, okay, well, we can't build everything, right, as part of our startup. So what are we going to prioritize? And I think that part is like really, really important and something that I particularly look at when evaluating projects. And we actually have this feature in the platform that you should use where you're basically submitting a 1 minute update video every week on kind of like what your priorities are and like what you're shipping that this week. Um, because that's kind of like what it's like to be a startup founder, is like figuring out like of all the different things in the world that you could possibly be doing, what are the one or two things that are like most important to finding product market fit early on, or at least getting to launch a product that you think will find product market fit early on. Like what are those sort of priorities that you need to be focused on at any given moment. And so that prioritization of like what features to build for the hackathon and launch, so that like when people see them, they'll understand what you're building, why it's important, why would they use it themselves, is quite important. So I think yeah, that's another thing to just be thinking about when building each week. So yeah, all right, Clay, are you good now?
Yeah.
Yes, you're
Okay.
Oregon.
Yes. We've done it.
What are fuck?
We're talking about just like when you think about like teams like entering the hackathon or just like very early on in the competition, like what should they be focused on? So we were talking about like maybe some tips on how to find a good co-founder, tips on how to find a good idea, yeah, stuff like that early on.
I think the in sort of different is that in the world really simplistic. One we see uh, usually down the things that is um, try yeah tried and kind of general guys amongst Twitter generally. And so if you are starting to look through the different products that you could prospectively build, I would focus on doing one thing very, very well and having a strong reason why, and how doing that thing very well creates sort of mode. Then, hey, we're going to try to shoehorn in, everything that you would want to put into something to filter for, like uh, Google ad stack rank, or what you think a VC would like. And so really focusing on a single feature that you think is unique in the world, and expressing that through the submission and the build is probably the most important thing in my opinion.
Nice. Cool. One thing to note, this question came in on the chat in Discord, was yeah, we just maybe touching on some structural changes that we've made this hackathon, is that we've changed up a little bit the tracks. So someone was asking if they can build like a DAO coordination tool if we don't have a DAO track this time. The answer is yes. You can build whatever you want. We actually have a new track called Undefined, which is basically kind of uh, any idea that doesn't fit nicely into like DeFi or infra. And so, yeah, that we're open to any and all ideas, and you can use that track as sort of a grab bag of things that we'll be judging against. And I think, yeah, the tracks are narrowing down a bit. I think that's sort of natural based on kind of where people are finding product market fit in crypto. I think when at least I joined crypto, and when especially the Solana ecosystem, the number of things that you could potentially build was quite expansive. But I think over the last few years, we found that just there's been a lot more refinement on like what crypto is good for, which is namely like building markets that are novel, that are on chain, or for payments and kind of like commerce. Um, And so a lot of the ideas are kind of like around those two use cases. So trading and payments are kind of the two main ones, and the tracks are kind of reflecting that this time. But that doesn't mean that there's a lot of other things that people should be sort of building on for the future, and hopefully the undefined track is helpful for that. Um, so yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Um, let's see. Yeah, we can sort of jump into maybe now that people have a sense of like, yeah, what they should be doing now. Looking forward to maybe more like the submission process. Um, so I think the main thing, at least from my perspective, you should be doing for the submission process is one, making sure that like what you built during the hackathon is like workable and testable. I think what we see a lot of times when we get to the end of the hackathon is that people like sprint to build something and then they never like test it. So like in the demo, it just like doesn't work. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Second is to keep enough time for the presentation. Not because you need to make the presentation like a beautiful slide deck and that part really matters, but more just thinking through like what are the points you want to communicate in the pitch video that basically makes it clear on what you're building, why you built it, and why you think it's going to be a big thing for the Solana ecosystem and kind of a breakout startup generally. So that's just my recommendation right now in terms of planning. Like make sure that you have enough time to test whatever you're building, and then make sure you leave time at the end for creating that pitch video, because that's like the main thing that the judges watch first before they dig into anything else. Nate, anything on your end?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking maybe I can pull up the submission form
Oh
and
boy,
kind of go through.
are we gonna bungle the stream though by doing that?
All right. Well,
No,
Yeah.
I think we're good. I think we're good. You
Okay.
guys see this?
Oh yeah. That's
Okay.
good.
So just as a framing for like what we look for, and then also for questions, because some of these fields I think can be interpreted in different ways. So that we can just run through and kind of give our take on like what we look for. Okay, so I'm filling out my project. I think name is pretty self-explanatory. Here I'm building Bitcoin, never been built before. Short description. Short is a key term here. This is kind of going to be a theme through the entire submission. Like, try and be as concise and clear as possible, which often means like pretty pretty short form, but like meaningful descriptions. So yeah, it makes it easier on all the judges who are going through like potentially like over 1,000 projects. If you can just express what you want to say, whether it's written or spoken, as concisely and clearly as possible. So, okay, this is maybe a little bit on the shorter side, but just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to keep it really, really brief. You can choose up to 3 tracks. So again, to Maddie's point, like you you should pick the ones that you feel it fits into the most, but it's not really the most important thing. Like if your project stands out, we will definitely pay attention regardless of the track. And that's kind of what undefined is for as well. Like we want to see stuff that maybe doesn't fit neatly into a single track, and that's okay. It's not like that's not the most important piece, I would say. Okay, so this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. University project means, are you in university, or is like sort of a majority of your team in university? Obviously, the project itself can be. It doesn't need to be like in education or an educational product. So here, this is a big one. For the sake of judging, this is how we've always done it. Is we do we do take a look through the code repo to sort of ensure that you built what you said you're going to build. It's not a code review. It's not like about code quality. It's just sort of like, how have you prioritized the features? How did you build this out in such a way that to get the MVP going? Is it built on Solana? Is like a big part too. It's not, you're not submitting some EVM project. It does not have to be fully open source if you're worried about that. You just need to share it with hackathon at coliseum.org, which is just a small judging group. And it's not even all the judges. It's a smaller group. So it's not going to leak. Don't worry about that. This is something we take very seriously. So yeah, if you're worried, if you have further questions about that, feel free to reach out. But this is an important piece. So please make sure to do that. Okay, moving on. Well, actually, did you guys have anything to add on that one first?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, here's kind of the meat of it. So I think we should kind of each give our take maybe on what we look for. But yeah, so project logo or graphic, I hope that's self-explanatory. Don't need to overthink that. Link to the pitch video. So yeah, again, concise and clear, super important. There's like a lot that can be can sort of be taken away from how somebody communicates. And yeah, it's hard to overemphasize that. Concise and clear is super important. Um, in terms of the actual content, like we do care about the product itself, of course, but we also really care about like your team's background and kind of like understanding what's your insight and reason for building this product. Like, why are you targeting this specific problem or opportunity? And like, do you have some specific insight on how you're fixing this in a way that nobody has thought of, or it's perfectly suits your background as a founder? Um, that's really is really key. So I would say definitely try and get that across as well. Um, and concrete kind of like if you have user numbers or feedback or validation from users, that's always awesome to see. But we know a lot of folks don't get to that point. That's okay, but definitely if you have not launched and don't have users, try and give us a sense for like who your target users are, like very narrowly. Like we want to see that you understand who you're building this for, not just broadly like, oh, this is just something for, you know, anyone who wants to like send crypto to their friends. It's like that's cool, but that sort of already exists. That's like very generic. It's very broad. It helps to really focus in. Um,
Um, I'll just add one thing here, just from my standpoint, that I look for in the pitch video is like a lot of the best pitches like teach me something that I didn't know, like some sort of specific opportunity that due to your like sort of in-depth research or experience in some sort of industry has given you this sort of like wedge or product that you think is going to be yeah, very very interesting. And so I think a lot of the best pitches kind of like yeah are in the sort of an informational kind of like storytelling kind of fashion where you explain like how your experience or research has led to sort of you coming up with this product concept. So yeah, just wanted to call that out.
I think the main things that are alluded Brett is this in these presentations. Staying focused on what you think matters most in terms of the overall product direction is the thing that we look for most. I think that things that are sometimes overstated or can be a waste of the valuable space in community media are the out. We have size here. I think that market size is kind of a precise, and so not necessarily the size, but the direction. Who you're building for is important, or better said, who opens up their pays you money, their product at the end of the day. Thing that I add as well too, there's no need your entire resume in discussing the team that getting two key pieces relevant experience that and why you and folks that you choose with are the right people building this product. And I think really focusing in on the features that matter, that create a moat, and differentiation, especially if you know that you're building in a competitive space, are quite important in terms of both, the judging criteria from a hackathon perspective, but also what we look for from an investment perspective. The last thing I would add, and this is maybe more minor than other things, but obviously the spirit of hackathons is taking technology and using it in a way and expressing it in a way through a product that is unique. But the point of the product is not the underlying technology. While that may be interesting, I don't think that necessarily needs to be the thing that is highlighted, through and through in both the presentation or even the technical demo at length. I actually would rather see the product in use as opposed to sort of the building blocks for how it was put together, unless you truly believe that is the secret sauce for what's being shipped and presented in the project.
Sweet. Okay. So that's the link. That's the pitch video, which is, I would say, kind of the most key thing. So yeah, in terms of the kind of application or the submission, I would imagine that's where most people spend their time. Of course, other than building the product itself, which is going to take up the bulk of your time. Um, the technical demo video is an addition where you get a chance to more detail show us the actual product itself. Um, I'm reading this now, and I actually think we're going to update this a little bit. So yeah, don't maybe don't read too deeply into this. But my take on this video is like, the pitch video that we just talked about is yeah, it's team background, it's product market, or market you're going after. It's your insight, your approach to the market. Technical demo video is much more about the product itself and how you've prioritized building out different features, why you've built it that way, and then of course showing us the experience of the product itself and showing that off. So yeah, the changes, I would say, we're probably going to update this a bit to just say it's more about showing off the product and helping us understand the end user experience that you've optimized for and why you've done it that way. Yeah, that's my take. Yeah, Maddie or Clay, do you guys have anything else to add on that one?
Yeah, and I think that there's a million ways to present a product, but I would highlight the two that really is all unique about it. A good example is building another a fan mask, the Chrome wallet, right? Uh, in the like send options or onboarding with trays, something like that. I like that actually focuses on the core differentiation in what you're building. And so really picking like 2 to 3 things to highlight and showing it as efficiently as possible is probably the most important component here. I don't think that the judges necessarily will ding you if you don't show the entire onboarding flow, if that's not the core feature that's differentiating. And so really taking it as a way to kind of show, like I said, 2 to 3 vignettes of the product is probably the most important piece in terms of, crafting and editing it.
Yeah. Okay. Next is a Twitter handle. We highly recommend this for most projects. Maybe Maddie, you want to give a spiel on just kind of like
Yeah.
this concept of distribution, building in public. I will say, like, not every project necessarily needs to be on crypto Twitter every day, but I imagine a lot of them do. So yeah, just keep that in mind. But go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the main point here of creating a company or a startup or product Twitter account or X account is that you want to be finding like 1 to 10 sort of potential customers or beta users as early as possible. And by putting out some information about like what you're building and a wait list maybe even you can basically be pinging that and creating like a Telegram group once you've identified those people, where you can be like constantly pinging them, like basically about like updates and like things just to pick their brain about like what you're building, things so that for them to try along the way. I think we found that a lot of the best startups are just in constant communication, right, and communicating with their customers and figuring out exactly kind of like what they want, which informs sort of the prioritization and roadmap of what you're actually building. And so starting on that immediately is important. And kind of the first step in that is like creating an X account with your startup so that you can kind of start putting out some information publicly about what you're doing and what you're building throughout the process. So we just recommend everyone do that. But like Nate said, like not every product is going to find good distribution through Twitter. A lot of it um, can be done, yeah, obviously off Twitter, but in more like B2B, like just Twitter DMs. I think we found a lot of people have success just DMing people that are they're high value customers potentially. So yeah, generally just X is like a really powerful platform, and you should have a company account on it.
Yeah, I think just maybe a meta point on is this is beyond just the submission form at this point. Like you should really understand who your target user is because you need to reach out to them in some way. For a lot of crypto projects, the best way to do that is to have a presence on crypto Twitter. But if your product is like you're building a stable coin like protocol for shipping companies or like for medical companies or something like, and the crypto is just in the background, then that's totally different. Then you need to find channels where you're going to reach those customers, those users. But if you're building like a perps dex, yeah, you probably need to be on crypto Twitter. You probably need to be DMing people to try your product because nobody knows about it, nobody cares about it yet. So like, yeah, the main takeaway is like know your audience and then just like go as hard as you can on trying to reach them, whether that's just posting, whether that's cold DMs, whether that's some other channel that you've discovered. Often like subreddits on Reddit can be good if that's where your target users hang out. There's a lot of niche communities like that you could tap into. Um, so yeah, keep that in mind. That is actually it for the project form. Hopefully that was helpful. By the way, if anyone's listening and has questions, feel free to just drop them in the Cypherpunk Hackathon channel on Discord. Um, we can answer any questions at this point.
Yeah, that's really another note of structural difference is that we're kind of testing out how it's like to have just a dedicated Discord server rather than sort of like the async forums that we have on the platform. And so, yeah, if you're participating in the hackathon and you haven't joined the Discord server yet, that's like probably the best way to keep up to date with everything that's going on. Also to connect with builders, we have just a general chat, the Cypherpunk Hackathon chat. We have a find a teammates sort of channel specifically, and then we have a show and tell channel where you can kind of um, explain, kind of like build in public, like explain kind of what you're building, why you're building it, and maybe that will attract people to maybe be users or potentially join your team. So yeah, check out that if you haven't yet. Um, let's see other things that we should probably cover. Yeah, I think as with we get a lot of new folks who haven't built on Solana or in crypto generally. So it's probably maybe just good to cover kind of what the purpose of this is. Like, this is not like a traditional hackathon. A lot of people use it as such, which is great, like to find jobs or just to dip their toes into Solana development. But a majority of people joining the hackathon are usually startup founders who are looking for basically pre-seed capital and some support to get their product off the ground. And so that's also where Coliseum comes in, especially after the hackathon. Is once we sort of choose the winners of the competition, we'll interview all of the winners to see if they're eligible to join our accelerator program, which is now partially based in San Francisco. So our last batch spent a couple weeks with us at the beginning in San Francisco, and then the rest is remote. Um, and yeah, as part of that program, we invest 250K in each project, and yeah, put them through a whole program and help them basically get from, I guess, as we say, like DevNet, where people usually end in the hackathon, to hopefully mainnet by the time that they're getting around to demo day and pitching a much broader group of investors that we host. So yeah, just to give that some overview. It looks like we have some questions in the chat. So the first one is, we're working on an APK. What is the best way to get it across for you guys and judges to test it upon submission?
This is a bit of a so APK. I'm assuming you're talking about like an Android app. Um, I mean, the best thing is like submit the GitHub where, yeah, where we can like build a sort of like a local version of it. I guess it's tough. I mean, you can also upload the APK somewhere and send that link, but yeah, some of the it's a bit much because some of the not all the judges are like technical, and also um, we're a little touchy about downloading files from submissions. So yeah, I would just say like just make sure you cover it, the whole flow pretty in depth in your demo video, which the judges will primarily key off of, and then just submit the GitHub with instructions, and that should cover it.
Another quick shout out there is, if you are building an Android app, consider submitting also to the Solana dApp store. So our friends at Solana Mobile, who are building the Seeker phone, are looking for more applications, and they have like a small grants program that they're offering up to like 10K for teams to ship Android apps on the dApp store as well, which is Android. So that's on the website if you want to click into it to learn more. But yeah, highly recommend that as well. Let's see, what else should we talk about here?
I mean, we can talk a little bit about the accelerator program and sort of like in the investment lead up to that. I think, yeah. So yeah, I guess I mentioned this earlier, but like, yeah, submission to the hackathon is your application for the accelerator. It's not; those are not separate things. Yeah, and the form, like as we sort of walk through it, that is what we use to determine kind of whether we want to invest, and whether it's a good fit for like Coliseum's investment criteria. So everything we said earlier about the form still holds true. I guess I would probably just add like, we know, yeah, especially if you're like a startup founder, you're submitting to the hackathon. You're probably quite early stage, since one of the criteria is that you have not raised venture capital yet. We know that like the product may change over time. It will change over time. It's not, yeah, this doesn't have to be like your perfectly baked thing that you're going to build and scale to a billion users. We really more just want to understand like you as a founder or the founding team, why are you really well suited to build this thing, and like what is your kind of unique edge in building out that thing, and like just showing us evidence of that, much more than like, yeah, the product is sick as is and like is perfect and never going to change. Like it is kind of just a sample of like your directed work towards solving the problem you want to solve, or like building the startup that you want to build. So that's how we look at it. And yeah, and then I'll say like we interview teams as well that are sort of candidates for the accelerator, and so you will get a chance to like give us more in-depth information, and have like a face-to-face chat, which we think is really important. What am I missing?
I
Clay.
think Nate or Clay is muted.
I think you might be.
Okay. Oh.
Yep. Yep, you're good.
The same thing that important text for Accelerator of the things in after you've and it's going market or doing the hackathon, and for us that is extremely important because it shows one, have you sort of continued in the direction that you submitted and you are completely committed to this idea and bringing it to the world, or the other version of it is, are you kind of sitting and waiting for someone to tell you that this is a worthwhile idea to bring to the world? And I think the latter is indicative of that is not the right idea to be working on, and that committing yourself to an idea, or at least playing out the idea to the point where you can determine whether or not the product hypothesis that you're building towards is true or not. And so I would just take that to heart in terms of, we deeply appreciate everyone that shows up and spends, the 6 weeks building. And if your idea is just to do this as, a project, that's great. But folks that want to, truly build an enduring company, it's very clear to us in interviews that is their purpose in coming to these events. And so definitely take that to heart when thinking about the idea, thinking about the people that you want to work with, and the speed at which you are seeking to find truth around whether the product that you're building is being validated by the market or not. So to me, that is very squishy, but very important in terms of our consideration.
Yeah. The other thing just to know is that the hackathon really matters sort of what market and your team background in that market is. Most of the teams that come through the hackathon that even we invest in, a lot of them will pivot within that specific sort of market vertical. Um, and yeah, really having a team that has like strong sort of founder market fit is important in finding that product market fit, so that like the team actually has, so if you're building like a game, that you have some experience building in the gaming industry, or have done a tremendous amount of research on understanding kind of like what the opportunities or where others have failed in the past, and why you will succeed despite that. So I think doing a lot of research into the market that you're building in, knowing that you're probably going to be pivoting along the way, is also important. Um, I think yeah, one thing to do, I guess, is that we have like a huge directory of projects from previous hackathons. So if you're building a specific product, maybe just do a search through those like previous hackathon directories where you can kind of see what people have submitted, because chances are people have submitted something along the same lines of what you're building, and so just really understanding like the whole history of startup attempts, and understanding where they may have gone wrong is quite important because we get a lot of the same things over and over and over again. So just wanted to call that out. Let's see. Do we have any questions here in the last few minutes?
I'll just highlight something Max posted in the Discord, which is great, about the technical demo video. So, yeah, everything we said before still holds true. One thing we saw a lot last time, I think we're trying to avoid, is like, do not submit a video of you like streaming your IDE and the code and like sort of like walking through, voicing over the code and like, or clicking through your GitHub repo. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm an engineer and I think that that stuff is cool, but it's very dry and it's not getting across really what the judges need to see, which is more like, how does your product work? What's the user experience? And how did you think about that as you built it? So yeah, we do not want to conduct a code review, um, as part of that. So please try and keep it a little bit lighter, a little more visual. And you're submitting the code anyway, so don't worry, like someone's going to look at that.
There's a good question here. What is the best way, or just general advice, to spotlight a project in a hackathon so that judges and participants quickly understand its value and impact before the demo video day? Um, yeah, I mean, I think there's not one right answer to this, but like one thing that we talked a little bit about earlier in the stream was just the Twitter. Like Twitter is X, I guess it's now called, is like the epicenter of sort of information flow in crypto. And so creating a Twitter account, started building basically in public, sharing exactly, posting quite a bit about like what you're building, um, is a good way that a lot of teams, I guess, find some notoriety and attention even before they submit their pitch video. I think this has been the case, at least in the hackathon. A lot of the best teams are pretty well known, even like after a few weeks of building in the hackathon, just because they've been sharing a lot of what they've been building leading up until that point. Um, and Yeah, I think yeah, just being active on Twitter is a good way to do it. You can also reach out to, so the judges are public. They're on the website. You can always reach out to them if you think that you're building something that they, in particular, like given their background or previous experience, has some insight on. So, like for instance, if there's a founder in the judging panel who's like a DeFi founder, you're building a DeFi project, maybe something that's complementary to what his product is. Like you can always just direct message him on Twitter. I'm sure a lot of times people will respond to that. So, yeah, I think that would be my suggestion.
I'd say
Um,
out of it, there is to be ways of communicating Twitter. I are more to the public and the aim to feature products rather than hurt on that. I really have seen that kind of just and seeing on feature weakness, which I'll to our bomb probably the thing there. I think Twitter in terms of goals and make product.
yeah. Um, let's see. Another person asked, the speed and iteration path post hackathon is very important to us. Can you help me understand this better? Yeah, I think it's I think the main thing there is just, yeah, we want to see that, like, no matter what, you're just like continuing on building with your startup, right? Like there's no reason you need to wait for our permission to keep building. Like you should just be like building, uh, yeah, continuously after the hackathon, trying to find product market fit. Obviously, the hackathon is like sort of subjective when it comes to judging. It's a lot of people's opinions on what you are building, and so regardless of whether you win or what we think of it, if you're confident in the vision of it long term, you should just keep building. And so that's a really important thing that we'll ask everyone in when it comes to interviews for the accelerator. And so that's kind of what we meant by that. So hopefully
Yeah,
that's
that's specifically for the accelerator, I would say. That's something we really, really look for. If you're submitting just a hackathon project or some public goods thing, or that you're using this hackathon as a learning experience, like you don't need to feel like you're sort of that you can still win the hackathon if you don't decide to make this your life's work. Um, that's we understand that's some people view the hackathon differently, and like we obviously award tons of prizes to that type of thing. But for the accelerator specifically, we don't invest in like sort of like just a side project or something that you experimented with and decided not to pursue. We invest in startups, so the expectation there is that you have a long term commitment to really see it through. So that's where we're really looking for that. And if you are starting a startup and you're kind of using the hackathon as your application to our accelerator, then like you should be building before the hackathon and after the hackathon, ideally. Like you, because building a startup is really hard, and it's like it's more than a full-time job. And so the hackathon is your sort of way to show us and show the judges what you're doing, but hopefully you're just kind of cranking on it no matter what, if you're a founder. I think there's a couple more questions. What's the best way to demo a Rust SDK like project so it doesn't come off dry? Um, yeah, I mean it's fine if your product doesn't have a UI or like isn't some kind of sexy consumer product. If it's a if it's like a dev tool, or it's a Rust SDK, just show us the CLI or show us the experience of using it, from a developer's perspective. Like that's cool. A lot of the judges are technical people. Um, all of us review technical projects all the time, and we think they're great. So you don't have to have some crazy UI or have it be a consumer product for it to be interesting. But just again, like think about the user's experience, and your users might be developers, but you do have users, of some form. So just show us that experience, whether it's like a CLI or like just running the code in some form. Or whatever it might be. But just try and get that across.
Couple other ones here. Do you have any prizes for public goods? Yes, we have a public goods prize. I believe it's 10K. So that's just like for the best project that kind of affects the whole ecosystem. That one has to be open source. So we do have prizes for that. The other one is our product has many features in development, but we do need to build every single one of them to achieve our vision. We likely don't have enough time to complete everything within the timeline. Yeah, so this is one thing we mentioned at the beginning of the stream. If you missed it, part of the competition is like figuring out what you're prioritizing for. Like just explaining kind of like why you decided to build these one or two features of all the features you could have possibly built, is important to us because it kind of frames how you, as a founder, sort of think about building products, on sort of an engineering timeline. And so, yeah, I think the point is that you can't build everything. So you have to choose very wisely what you do decide to build. And again, like what you should be be thinking about when it comes to deciding like what are you optimizing for. Is it you should be trying to get something in people's hands so that they kind of understand what you're building. Um, so whatever you can do to optimize for that, highly recommend doing that. Um, there's another question about what's the time difference between Coliseum and the Accelerator cohort. So, yeah, the hackathon itself runs roughly about 5 weeks this time. It's going to take us about a month or so to review all of the submissions. So last time we received about 1,500 submissions. It's going to take a long time to go through those, evaluate them, and come up with winners, and also teams that get into the accelerator. So that will take about a month and head us into probably around December. From when we announce the winners of the hackathon in December, we'll then select the top 10 to 15 teams to join the accelerator, which starts in January of next year. So it'll be probably about a month break before the accelerator starts, and then that will run for 8 weeks, partially in person in San Francisco, and then the remainder, I'd say 6 weeks, are going to be online. So that's the structure. Okay, we probably have a couple more minutes here. Anything else you guys want to impart here before we wrap up?
I think this is probably just a question in the chat. Difference between the fun program and very on there are a non money owns any company, and this are made by us call passive of holders, investors across the salon, the other group, and the grant for the fund. And as we tend to fit from the folks in the come in the calcium program where they spend to in 50,000 on dilutive. We own percentage of on the other side. But yeah, that's very by that isn't just money. There's dilutive money. People that make decision are much broader than the three of us versus this decision.
Yep. There's also a final question about can you apply to the accelerator independent of the hackathon? So right now, given this time period from September through October, no. Like the way that you can get into the accelerator is by joining the hackathon and then becoming a winner and being selected. However, we do run a program when the hackathon is not running called Eternal that sort of mimics like an on-demand hackathon sprint for people who want to get